Good evening. Thank you for watching. We're live from Net TV studios with our update, current affairs update in English. Today my guests are Dr. Jason Azzopardi and Dr. Therese Comodini Cachia. Our topic today is the inquiry of Daphne Caruana Galizia as we approach the 3rd anniversary of her assassination. And I thank you very much for joining me today. We're coming closer to the date that so many people mark in their calendar this year.
Yes, it's true. It is a date that many people, it will take years for people to even start forgetting this date. It is a date that I will always remember. And it is a date that I will always remember because not only was a mother and a wife killed, assassinated in such a cruel manner, in such a cold-blooded manner, but it was the epitome of how it showed a failure in our democracy. The killing, the assassination of a journalist is, to me, the epitome of a failure in a democracy. It was the killing of the 4th pillar of our democracy. It started the crumbling down of that 4th pillar, and I can never forget that day. Nor will I ever forget the anniversary of Daphne's death. Also because on that day, just a few hours, the assassination, my colleague and I met with the family in court. Jace, do you remember that?
We can never forget that.
And it was something that I for sure I will never be able to forget.
I mean, everyone remembers that day, everyone who lives in this country, but mostly you, because, I mean, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Azzopardi and Dr. Comodini Cachia represent the Caruana Galizia family during the public inquiry. However, all the information that we use during this program is available on the public domain. Before we carry on, we've had a lot happening within the Nationalist Party. May I have your comments about the new leadership, Dr. Azzopardi?
Well, definitely we are very much imbued with a fresh sense of purpose and vigor. We are all of us, plural, all of us, one voice, one intent to, first of all, unite. Secondly, strengthening our resolve to be a genuine alternative to government. It's no secret that over the next few weeks and months, very important developments will be taking place and very important news will come out of the court proceedings, which require a very strong opposition in order to continue to show what a rotten government we have and what a genuine alternative, a better alternative, the Nationalist Party can be and should be.
Thank you. And your comments about the new leadership, Dr. Comodini?
First of all, my comments should really focus on our members. And my first comment is an appreciation for their participation in this leadership contest. They have been brilliant. They participated by coming to vote despite the crisis of the pandemic, despite everything that we're experiencing now because of the pandemic. But they have come out to vote in very big numbers. And I think I really must thank all our members who participated in this leadership contest, whoever they voted for. I think I really owe them a big thank you for participating. Also because their participation shows how much this party is still alive.
Yes, absolutely.
So to me, this party is there because our members are there.
Yep.
This party is there because the electorate is there and because our country needs to have a strong opposition. So my biggest thank you goes to the members. They've kept us alive and kicking. They've pulled our legs sometimes. We've been called things sometimes, but their participation in this contest has been fantastically, it's been fantastically an experience that's really given us more strength, more resolve, and it's given us, once again, the feeling that we are alive, that we can be confident. We can be confident that we can be a very strong opposition waiting to be in government, and a very strong opposition that can work together in a united manner, and that has a strengthful and powerful resolve to find solutions for our country, not only within the pandemic, but also the consequences on our economy, the consequences on our families, the consequences on the education of our children. And I think this leadership contest has really taught me as an MP a lot of lessons. The main lesson is that we must always have faith in our members. They are the ones who will tell us that the party is alive. They are the ones who will show us the way, how we should behave and how we should unite and how we should strengthen our resolve to move forward.
There was a lot of evident enthusiasm. I mean, it was evident, which was nice to see, I think. Our time is always brief, so we have to go on to our topic of today and the public inquiry. A lot of testimonies this week, in particular, the businessmen Mark Gazan and Paula Bologna, both shareholders of Electrogas. Perhaps we can shed some light onto that and explain the proceedings that took place for those people who weren't following. And in particular, people were also quite surprised with the testimony of Minister Jose Herrera. So,
okay. Who shall I'll leave Minister Herrera to you. Okay. So we closed off last week with the testimony of Mr. Bologna, and we started then this week with the testimony of Mr. Gazan. Both were asked to explain the actions that they took to ensure that allegations made about Electrogas, stories published about Electrogas, stories which are based on proved facts, because the media who have made publications on Electrogas have actually published also the evidence upon which they are basing their publications. And both witnesses were heavily questioned, even by the members of the board, on how they reacted to these stories, but how they reacted as businessmen, as shareholders, as directors, and therefore what concrete action did they do? What concrete action did they take when they knew that their nominated director on Electrogas was the owner of 17 Black? The owner of 17 Black, then renamed as Wings Developments, and that same owner is named by Keach Cambry and Conrad Mitzi in their international structure setup, whereby they are saying that they will be receiving funds from this director of Electrogas. So the board members were really interested in trying to find out how these directors behaved when they were faced with facts which showed that the person they entrusted their investment in was the same person who promised, or from whom Conrad Mitzi, who was the minister directing this project, the energy project, and the chief of staff of the prime minister, how they stated that they would be receiving funds from this director, from Jürgen Fenech. So I think this was really the culmination of their evidence, the culmination of their testimony, in that it was focused on basically how did they react? What did they do? And the answers they gave was that they did almost nothing. I mean, Mr. Bologna testified very often saying that since he was not a director on Electrogas, then he did nothing because, you know, what the media reports is what the media reports. That's not facts. This is what was stated by him repeatedly in his evidence. Mr. Kazan took a different approach. Mr. Kazan did say that when the revelation of the ownership of 17 Black was made, was published by the media, and when it was pretty obvious through media reports that Jürgen Fenech was the owner of 17 Black, that same person whom he and his family had entrusted to lead the project on Electrogas, he said that he immediately started to question Jürgen Fenech about this, but Jürgen Fenech wasn't available at the time. And he said that then he spoke to Jürgen Fenech's uncle, Ray Fenech, and that started the ball rolling for Jürgen Fenech to resign from being director of Electrogas. And that is when Paul Bologna took over the directorship on behalf of the Maltese shareholders. But the resignation of Jürgen Fenech is not enough, because the resignation of Jürgen Fenech doesn't mean that the allegations go away, because the facts still remain that Jürgen Fenech is the owner of 17 Black, that Keith Cambry and Conrad Mitzi stated clearly that they will be receiving funds from 17 Black, that Conrad Mitzi was the minister managing this project, this electricity project. Therefore, he was the minister with whom Jürgen Fenech often met to discuss ongoing issues about this project, and that Keith Cambry, the chief of staff of the prime minister, was a key figure in the administration of the government, and consequently also in addressing issues which the government had to deal with in relation to this project. Let's not forget that in this project, we as the public, we as people, actually put a state guarantee, a bank guarantee, to substantiate the banking facility that Electrogas needed to take, because there was no ruling on state aid issue, on the state aid issue related to this project.
Sure.
And so you see, their testimony clearly showed and exposed the network that is heavily connected to Electrogas. Then, of course, we also had Siemens, who's another shareholder, who made it very public that they too wanted Jürgen Fenech to resign.
Yeah.
But once again, the resignation of Jürgen Fenech is not sufficient. It doesn't make
and I mean,
facts go away.
Can we sort of draw some attention also to the excise tax of 40 million? Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yes, of course.
Please?
Because we keep thinking that the only thing that the Maltese people, the only advantage that the Maltese people gave to Electrogas is the state banking guarantee. That's not true. What we found out is that we've also forgiven them 40 million in excise tax. 40 million in excise tax was forgiven after having been already included in the negotiations in the price valued for Electrogas to pay Anna Malta. And their evidence showed that there were meetings with minister and with high-ranking officials to convince Anna Malta to forgive this 40 million excise tax and to find a way around it.
And the way around it was found?
The way around it was found, of course, but that means that we have once again given 40 million as a gift to Electrogas. Sure. But there's another gift that we gave. In the last testimony, we also found out that when there was the first, when the first voyage of the LNG tanker was coming to Malta, the ERA, the Environment and Resources Authority, had established a guarantee for 5.5 million. We found out only during the testimony that this guarantee was halved.
Right.
So we see a number of concessions, monetary concessions, being given to this company.
And may I ask, the directors, I mean, these gentlemen, the businessmen, they have been aware of all these transactions, I take it?
I believe the directors are not fools. These are directors who have experience in business, who have a history in business. These are directors who run some of the biggest businesses in our country. They are children of fathers and grandfathers who have started the biggest businesses in this country. So we're not speaking of newcomers to the business sector and to the industry. We're not speaking of young people who have, just started to dip their toes in business. These are very mature and very experienced shareholders. So yes, they do know their financials and they do know how business is run.
Dr. Azzopardi, your comments on that, and perhaps we can move on to Dr. Herrera after that.
Oh, wait, one of my comments. Number one, the sittings never cease to amaze us. We know a lot, but we always learn a lot. We're learning a lot, and we're becoming aware of new things. And it proves how much of a necessity the public inquiry is, and how right the family of Daphne Caruana Galizia was in insisting for the public inquiry to take place in spite of the government's objections. There are so many things happening, and in a few minutes we will not do justice with the entity of the testimony. I'm trying to hone in on the most important points. Number one, I think, is the litany of testimony by several ministers who are reminding us of the three monkeys. They did not hear, they did not see, and they did not open their mouth. Maybe there's the fourth monkey as well. I did not do nothing at all. Practically all the ministers we've been hearing admitted, telling Joseph Muscat one-to-one that Keith Cameron and Konrad Mizzi had to be, their position was no longer tenable. For some strange reason, Joseph Muscat preferred to take the flak. Joseph Muscat preferred to bring down the reputation of the country, risk the stability of the government and of the economy, in order to defend and stick his neck out for Keith Cameron and Konrad Mizzi. Eventually, we will be in a position to arrive at a logical conclusion as to why Joseph Muscat did this. Definitely not out of charitable purposes. Secondly, something that came out very evidently is, as Therese was saying, Joseph Muscat went out of his way to keep Konrad Mizzi responsible for very sensitive, controversial projects, even when he was no longer Minister for Energy. So when Konrad Mizzi became Minister for Tourism, Project Malta, the entity set up to take care of, for instance, Vitals, hospital deal, and Electrogas, were hived off within the Ministry of Tourism for Konrad Mizzi to continue being responsible for. Thirdly, Nexia, BT, a lot of testimonies coming out confirming that there was a conscious decision by government, when I say government, Office of the Prime Minister, to award as much as possible contracts, direct orders to Nexia BT, the corrupt accountancy firm, which was the vehicle used by the Panama gang in March 2013 to set up the secret Panama companies. Incidentally, mentioning Jose Herrera, to his credit, during the questioning we had the other day, he admitted that he stayed away from awarding a conscious decision contracts to Nexia BT because of the context, because of the background, because of the news surrounding Nexia BT. He did not want to have anything to do with this corrupt company, as opposed to practically all the other members of the cabinet, principally Konrad Mizzi, who went out of their way to award direct orders ranging from the public convenience, public-private partnership to set up public convenience, awarded to Nexia BT, to sitting on the evaluation panel of a 400 million power station. So that's another important aspect. Something else, I think, which is very, very important to note is, as Therese was saying, the huge financial problems Electrogas had in 2017, 16/17. And those financial difficulties, which even led to a default, meaning the company failed to pay the monthly payments to the banks, led to a certain situation. Now, during that period of time, we know, and Matthew Caruana Galizia testified, I think it was last week, about the 600,000 plus documents his mother had received round about January, February 2017 from within Electrogas. Documents which, from a whistleblower, show that things were not going in a proper direction, and secondly, there was financial difficulties. Thirdly, providing a reliable motive for the contract killing of Daphne Caruana Galizia. Now, over the next few days, weeks, but particularly in the next 3 weeks, we're going to hear hopefully much more evidence to further clarify, to get more information out of this situation, and basically in a position to show that A, the assassination could have been avoided. 2, the culture of impunity killed Daphne. Impunity means might is right. In Maltese, there's a beautiful phrase, "Minu laqwa jħawwel." So might is right leads to anarchy and leads to criminals being emboldened, thinking that they can get away with it, getting away with murder, literally. So corruption kills. Corruption does not have a social cost only, or a political cost, but kills, as happened in this case. So all in all, it is a grueling exercise for us, shocking. Let me make a public confession myself on a personal level. When Therese was questioning, I think it was last week, Matthew Caruana Galizia, whilst Matthew was presenting information that his mother had received from a source in 2016 from within Henley and Partners, emails between them and Owen Bonnici, Keith Cambry and Joseph Muscat. I was aware of the subject,
Sure.
because Daphne had written about it in 2017. What I was not aware was the extent of the viciousness in these emails between these persons, conspiring between them. In fact, I remember telling Therese during the sitting, I cannot believe my eyes when I saw these emails that Matthew was presenting. Going out of their way, they wanted to go out of their way to threaten with a very costly libel case in London, in England, which is called SLAP. Basically, lawsuits where millions, not thousands, tens of millions in damages are demanded against myself and Daphne Caruana Galizia. I wear that as a badge of honor. I mean, I was very uncomfortable for certain people, but to see, I mean, honestly, to read, I read for the first time the emails that Daphne had received from her source, saying, listen, in order to shut up their mouth, in order to be effective, we need to threaten them, Daphne and Jason Azzopardi, to shut up their criticism of the sale of passports, because that was the context. Yes, I was angry, I was sad, I was vindicated, I was shocked. I mean, fellow Maltese, forget about the filth and the scum that Chris Cullen and Henley and Partners are, but reading emails involving the Prime Minister of my country, the Minister of Justice of my country, and Keith Cambry, colluding with foreigners to silence a Maltese journalist and a Maltese member of parliament. At the time, I was not the lawyer of the family. I was a member of parliament voicing my concern about the sale of passports. That shocked me.
They were trying to stop you. They were trying to stop you.
And how? Yes. They did not manage. In fact, Chris Cullen had sent me 2 emails, I remember, early 2017, to threaten me with slap, and I sent him packing, I remember. I still have the email. So that was the intention, to close, to shut up our mouth in order not to expose the corruption behind the sale of passports.
Mm-hmm. The public inquiry will go on. I mean, it's very complex. Can I just ask you one quick question, because we're already drawing towards the end of the program. The key witness, Melvin Thoma, with his alleged suicide attempt, are we going to see his participation again?
Of course. Of course. I think he seems to be a committed person to He seems to be committed to the obligations that he has undertaken. And I have seen no lack of commitment so far on his participation, and no lack of commitment so far to provide the testimony that the police have asked him to provide, and also that the magistrate who is supervising and who is coordinating the compilation of evidence against Jürgen Fenech. And he has also participated by giving testimony before the Board of Inquiry.
Yeah.
I do not see any signs that he will default on those obligations. Of course, I cannot read the future,
Absolutely.
but so far he seems to have given the testimony and answered questions that were put to him by the police, by the judges, and also by the magistrate.
Just
Yes,
a quick
of
one.
course, absolutely.
Whilst Therese was answering you, I thought crossed my mind, and I think I ought to try make this appeal to the public, jumping on the platform of this program. What the people know, what you are asking, is what is in the public domain, because the witnesses have tendered their evidence in open court. What the people do not know is that there are significant testimonies which were heard behind closed doors, which gave very relevant information, in some instances extremely important information, but in order to safeguard, to guarantee either the security or the safety or the confidentiality of these people, their names and their testimony will not be divulged, but they were heard behind closed doors. My appeal is this: whoever is following, whatever information you have that can shed light on anything related to the assassination or the corruption, which Daphne Caruana Galizia was investigating, feel free to contact either the family, myself, or Therese, or directly the board, and confidentiality will be guaranteed. And this is in order to get to the fuller truth, in order to arrive at a complete picture of what really did happen.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Time is short, as usual. I thank you for being with us. Again, I point out Dr. Azzopardi's appeal to you. Should you have any information, please feel free to contact him directly, or Dr. Comodini Cachia. We will be with you again on Saturday night this week with a short briefing from ourselves here tonight, the three of us. I wish you a good evening.